Justin, welcome to the show, man. It's psyched to have you on.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate
Cool.
you inviting me. Great to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you as well. It's so amazing to me that these projects that are either really big right now or probably going to be big still have kind of CEOs and founders who are super accessible, whether it's you or Helium or Planet Watch. Like, it's a person who's just running it, and it's awesome to talk directly to that person.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, honestly, but and I think there's a ton of challenges that come with that too, right? I mean, because you have to kind of balance like your engagement time as well as like you still got to get some other stuff done. So it's challenging, but I think it's highly rewarding.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. What's the project that you started up? What does it do? And then we'll get into how you came to it. But we'll start with what's RevoFi.
Yeah, so RevoFi is the world's first Wi-Fi 6 mesh plus blockchain that runs natively on NVIDIA compute. So we're the first ones in the world to do that, right? So we're taking NVIDIA Jetson Nano line and we're running our own native blockchain on that unit. And we're also combining that with Wi-Fi 6 mesh for connectivity. That's really the fundamental pieces of it, right? And then all the services that we put on top of that are kind of like extra. But that's the core of what RevoFi is.
Okay. So I'm coming from mostly a Helium background. So I've got a little bit of exposure to that, but I want to make sure I understand this totally.
Sure.
Is that it's providing like a Wi-Fi mesh network that'll hopefully be global. Is that the first part that's kind of right?
That's accurate. That's correct, yes.
Yep. Okay. And then the other part that seems not super unique, because it's either unique or it's not, but that's unique, is that there's also this kind of compute power aspect on these devices. So it's not just providing coverage, in this case this Wi-Fi 6 mesh stuff, but it's also providing this edge computing piece.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's different than everything else.
Yeah, the edge compute piece has really been our focus for a long time. We're more like far edge, where like some of our partners are more edge based, and that's like big servers and data stores, right? So we're more like far edge.
Yeah, let's talk about what edge means, because it's still unclear to a lot of folks. Yeah. Do you want to take a crack at it, or do you want to correct me as I stumble through it?
Let's let you have a shot at it. That'd be great.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think of this as, in general, most of the web, most of the kind of interconnected piece that all of us use, is that information is hosted on giant servers somewhere in the world. And hopefully they're pretty close to us. But if they're not close to us, then it just takes a little bit longer for us to get that information from this giant computer room, if it's in Salt Lake City or San Diego or LA or Boston, to our house. And especially if we're doing kind of computing calculation stuff, whatever that is. The edge, as I understand it, means that computation part comes into the device that we have, and it makes all of that stuff happen a lot faster. Am I getting most of that right, or like where am I missing it?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. And that's pretty exciting, because as internet people, as the kind of the tribe of internetiers, we are super impatient and really sensitive to lag. Right. So if you look at older websites, you're just like, dude, I couldn't wait a second and a half for this thing to load. That's ridiculous.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what Edge is starting to solve. Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of add like one more piece to that, right? Because I think a lot of us, when we think like Edge and cloud-based services, we're thinking more like traditional based applications, right? So traditional applications, meaning like Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, right? Traditional apps. What we're also talking about here with like far edge, right, and just kind of like distributed edge or whatever you want to call it, we're also talking about all those decentralized applications and the frameworks and the infrastructure, really the core infrastructure that those applications are going to need. Whenever you start talking about really moving decentralized apps and dApps, out of cloud-based services from Amazon and Google and these others, right? We really want to have decentralization, true decentralization with dApps and DeFi. In DeFi, you have to have decentralized infrastructure that can provide that service.
I totally missed that. Okay, so this is kind of vital for the correct like execution of an actual decentralized application.
In my opinion, yes.
Okay, so what we think of now as like a decentralized app is really still if it's getting hosted on Amazon servers or whoever's servers, and it's not on your little node or your little computer, it's not really decentralized. Amazon could still say, hey, we're actually just going to shut that down and turn off all their stuff, and then you'd have to kind of scramble to go through finding a place to host your application. I think I'm using all the words mostly correctly. I'm not like a computer dude.
Yep.
Okay, so this makes it so that this is kind of the like the physical side of making that dream come true.
Yeah, this is the physical infrastructure that's going to support the future of apps.
Radical. So you're pretty excited to be at the founding part of that. Okay, so that's what RevoFi, not RevoFi, RevoFi is. Let's go kind of back in time now that we know what it is, and tell me how you got to where you are. Where did you start? I know you worked with Dish for a while. Dish does not fuck around when it comes to crypto, so that's a super exciting connection. But yeah, walk me through your life, man.
Yeah. So I started on this probably around 2000, believe it or not.
Okay.
Originally this was kind of like an asset management platform that, I was coming up with way back in the day. And, over the years, obviously, working with, DoD contracts, and, I worked with like NORAD and Shreveport, all the different Air Force bases and military bases here in Colorado, down in Colorado Springs. And that's kind of where I like cut my teeth, right, in my career.
And what were you doing for them that was like this same kind of edge computing stuff, or was it something different?
This was different. So this was all, I was working for Motorola at the time.
Okay.
So back in the day, I helped put up some of the original like trunking systems in cellular systems, right? Like the original cellular systems like 2G, that then later on became like Sprint and Nextel and all that. And some of those are still out there running today. So that's really like where I started. It was way back, in the day on kind of like wireless around those types of systems and platforms.
And you went to school for that stuff, right?
No.
No. Okay. So you went in, you just kind of got your hands dirty in that, just like almost everyone else in that realm. When I talk to the kind of old school guys, they're like, yeah, there wasn't like a degree for that. You just went in and figured it out as you went along. There were people, everyone is kind of figuring it out together.
It's a family business. My mom was in wireless, all growing up.
Okay.
So I think I climbed my first tower at 6 or 7. And I was like erasing EEPROMs and soldering at like 6 or 7. I wrote my first program. I think it was a Christmas tree at age 7, something like that. Up at my mom's like data room while we were running like the tape backups, old school tape backups and stuff, right? So I've been in wireless my whole life, man.
Okay, that's different than what I thought. Very cool. And there's also this intersection, not just of wireless, of kind of the technology, but also the programming and the code side that is important to this project and to almost all of these kind of blockchain meets space projects. Is that you have to have kind of chops in both.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that, over the years, industrial automation systems. I've built tons of those over the years. I've built communication platforms and systems all across the U.S., multiple states.
What does that mean? What's like an industrial automation system? Is that like a sewage plant, like metering out how much sewage they process or something? Or what does that mean?
Yeah, so industrial automation is all those different types of things, although I never worked on those types of systems. I worked on primarily nuclear facilities and automation systems for those. I worked on water systems, community water systems. I did a ton of oil and gas upstream and midstream, not a ton of downstream, but some processing facilities. Also did projects.
What's the difference?
So upstream is like where the stick is in the ground, right? So where you put the toothpick in the ground and you run a straw down there and pull up the oil and gas. That's upstream, right?
Yep.
Midstream is moving it from those upstream facilities to a processing facility, and then a processing facility goes to consumer. Okay,
cool.
And so,
always something to learn.
Yeah, Radical. So I did a lot of industrial automation systems there, and then even stuff for like FedEx for like conveyor systems and supply chain, and so all kinds of different industrial systems, and then tying those into wireless communication systems that. Everything from like spread spectrum to license to satellites, all kinds of terrestrial. So some of the first VoIP systems that went in, I installed some of those with Motorola, as well as what was some of the names back then? Some of these other tech companies here in Colorado. So that's kind of like some of the background there.
And did you have this RevoFi kind of crypto blockchain idea the whole time, or has it really changed since you first maybe started thinking about it or working on it?
Oh, it's definitely evolved. I would say like probably around 2007, 2008 is whenever we kind of like started reworking the idea. And then, didn't really get serious with it until probably way later on, probably like around 2014, 15. And, then that's whenever we actually kind of decided like, all right, well, let's get serious. Let's get a patent around this. Let's actually, use some modern technologies. Let's, bring this kind of like up to date, if you will, to modernize it. And so we did that, got a patent around it, created a company around it as well. And then, started building clientele, started understanding the market. But really it evolved into, it's like, okay, well, it's not just an asset platform, right? This is really something different. We can do more. We can do better than just managing assets, in my opinion, right?
Okay, so when you're saying an asset platform, can you help me understand that?
Yeah, so not like a digital asset or a financial tool asset, right? More of like physical assets. So everything from managing, say, like a manufacturing facility, or let's say like any type of commodity, really, right? And so the idea was born out of, let's tokenize commodities, right? That's really the goal of Revos, is to intelligently tokenize as many commodities with Revos as possible. So Revos isn't a singular asset, right? It's a multifaceted asset, and we're already proving that with our platform, because now you're getting rewarded not singularly, right, for a single asset, a single commodity. You're getting rewarded based on connectivity, you're getting rewarded on storage, and you're getting rewarded on compute. And those are three different commodities.
Okay, so let's hang on a second. We got like a ton of stuff going on. There's all kinds of new jargon here. Yeah. So tokenization of commodities, right? Which is like, that's this kind of blockchain meets space stuff. Is you're saying like one of the commodities is this Wi-Fi coverage, and you're tokenizing that. So someone gets rewarded in tokens for providing Wi-Fi coverage. Another of the commodities is storage space. So if someone wants to store their pictures of their cat or whatever it is, they're getting paid in tokens for that. And another of the commodities is this compute thing. So if someone wants to run calculations or whatever it is, they're getting rewarded in tokens for that. I'm getting that right?
100%. Spot on.
Okay. Awesome. Super cool. It's helpful to see how different it is, because certainly at first glance, when I first saw the project, it's like, oh, it's kind of like Helium, except it's just doing Wi-Fi. But whatever, 10 minutes into the combo, it's like, no, it's a pretty different thing, right? There's definitely going to be some overlap, and certainly if you've done one, it'll probably help you understand the other more. But different things. Totally. Okay. So what does the thing look like, right? I think you got 3 different products right now. There's a Micro, a Pro, and one other thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So there's the Link Pro, and the Micro.
The Link. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I think I've got 2 Link Pros coming. I'm excited about the project.
Yay.
But
Congratulations.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I was psyched, and I got one of those original NFTs. So that's just like, I think there's so much kind of curious stuff happening here. It's exciting to be a part of it. And we'll talk about the token sales stuff in a sec. But so let's go through these 3 things. What does each of them do? What makes them different? And why would someone want one or not want one over the other?
Yeah, so I think whenever you look at connectivity, we'll just call it Wi-Fi 6, right? Whenever you look at Wi-Fi 6, and storage and compute, the reason that people would want that is the same reason that we all have to essentially use cloud services today, right? And so rather than paying Amazon or Google, if I'm an app developer, or if I want to have privacy with my applications or have a private network, all these different things, right? It's a bunch of disparate systems, and the costs are pretty substantial too, depending on what you're trying to do. And then there's also barriers to entry of, okay, well, how do I monetize data assets like that, right? That's what we're really talking about, is storage and compute. And then how do I monetize my my connectivity as well? Because if you look at it, if you can take a little piece of that cloud data center and kind of just move it out into a device, and you put some Wi-Fi connectivity to it, now you get some really interesting dynamics that you can do. And it really changes the paradigm for deployment models, especially for app developers. Now, for customers and consumers, I think it's a little bit different, right? So why would they want it? It's like, okay, well, you get the latest Wi-Fi 6 tech, right, which means full broadband connectivity and throughput. And so now you can do some really interesting things around gaming. Gaming kind of been like our primary use case and focus for like the last 2 or 3 years, working directly with NVIDIA and GeForce Now, and just their whole cloud gaming platform. And so now you're talking about being able to do cloud gaming in basically anywhere a RevoFi device sits, as long as the internet connection that you have is meets the same kind of like broadband requirements. So now,
okay, hang on a second. What's cloud gaming? Like, I got 2 questions. What is cloud gaming, and what are the implications of having Wi-Fi and edge compute kind of on the same device?
Yeah, so cloud gaming, right, is no console needed. So you can game all your favorite games on basically any device that's currently supported, which is most iOS and Android devices. There's some TVs that are also supported, that kind of stuff, right? But the whole concept is that you can get your games that you've purchased and other games that are available for a smaller subscription fee per month. And now you get access to everything on the fly, and it's mobile, right? So anywhere you have connectivity, you can play your game. So I can play my game here in the US, fly to Dubai, and then get off and then play my games there too, as long as the service is there.
Okay, so they're playing. I'm trying to translate this into something I understand. So they're playing their game in the browser. Like, they're going on to Google Chrome and they're opening up and they're like, yeah, sign into my account, and they're playing it in the browser with the same kind of computing abilities as they would if they had a console, or there's a step I'm missing?
Yeah, it's not really a browser. It's more just like an application that you run.
Okay.
So just like an app you download. And you just run that, right? And Google's got their version of it, NVIDIA's got their version of it. I think Microsoft had one, although I think they shut theirs down because it was just not performing. So cloud gaming,
sure.
Cloud gaming is a very interesting use case, but essentially it's saying, look, if you can't afford these consoles, now we're going to make a paradigm shift where you pay like $10 or $15 a month, and now you've got access to all these games on basically any device, and you're not putting up hundreds of dollars for a console. And so why is that interesting? Well, if you look at what NVIDIA did with their GeForce Now platform in 1 year, it's pretty incredible, the demand that's out there. And this is just a gaming use case.
So what you're aiming for is that these gaming or app developers that are running these games are going to say, yeah, we're going to develop for and on the Revos platform. Is that right? Or can they do it somewhere else and then, I guess, port it or bring it over?
Yeah, so they can build it. They can still build their games in their primary mainframe, like kind of like environments, right? All their big servers and all that kind of stuff. I think that's not what we're trying to displace. What we're trying to do, though, is I think, at least for gaming to start off with, in that use case scenario, there's plenty of others, but for that one, I think we want to be the fastest gaming network on the planet, right? And so that way, whenever you talk about cloud gaming or any type of future gaming platforms, especially with GameFi coming in, with NFTs coming into play, you've got metaverse coming into play, AR, VR applications are exploding, right? So whenever you start talking about all those different, avenues that we're seeing for different business lines and growth within gaming, all of that requires connectivity, right? And so whenever you start putting all of that load out on like a Wi-Fi 5 system in older routers, performance is not going to be there, right? And whenever you have poor network connectivity, and then the other side of it too is like the app developers can't really target individual like areas, on the far edge right now. It just doesn't exist. So if you wanted to target, a game app and you launch that into the world, you have to pick the nearest Amazon data center, right? Or you have to pick the nearest data center, launch a server there, and then run your apps off of that and do all of your load balances. So you're not really getting, the true far edge or edge compute to lower that latency. You don't have any control over the network, right? And so What we're talking about is we're actually being able to lower latency and increase what you can actually put into like your far edge environment for application deployments. And you can target individual homes, right, to make that user experience a ton better, right? So now, as an example, if I play a lot of GeForce Now and I'm running that app here at my house, if I have a RevoFi device, NVIDIA can now like use their SDK and their cloud native capability to launch directly onto that device in the home and serve up that content real time. And so now you're not talking about pulling content from a data center somewhere. It's right there, right next to your device.
Okay, so there's another piece of this that I hadn't thought of, is that you understand how the code works, you understand the hardware stuff, you understand the networking stuff, and you've also got these industry connections where you're talking to NVIDIA and you're like, hey, you guys should use this. This is going to make the experience better for everyone. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever that agreement looks like. That's kind of the game, right?
Yeah, I mean that's like one of the use cases, and that's definitely the game, right? I mean, like our partners with FansXR, 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐸, we're working with them as well, right? And so like again, there's that VR and kind of like augmented experience that people are wanting, because they can't be there at at a NASA launch, for example, right? Or they can't be at a soccer stadium or a game every single time. And so the FansXR kind of is an interesting use case too, right? But that requires a lot of data and a lot of connectivity, because you're processing audiovisual information right there on site, and those customers want to feel like they're right there, at court line watching the game. And so the only way you can really do that is to have an edge and a far edge platform to deploy on.
Okay. There's a lot here. This is awesome. Okay. So does the RevoFi, the Link Pro, does that replace my current router, or do I add that in addition to my router? Like I'm kind of going back into the home scenario now.
So if it's just a router, you can replace it with your router. Now, what you can't do is replace it with, you can't replace your modem yet, right? So just to level set on the difference, right? Because it's very confusing to some people. Like a router.
Oh, yeah.
So like a router is just, it's just moving data from one point to another, to put it simply. The modem aspect is like, since day zero, like modems are what connect to the ISP, right? That's what gives us our internet connectivity. So whether that's a fiber connection, that's the physical hardware connection. So we don't have modem functionality built in yet, but we're road mapping that in, because we already have multiple telcos in different regions of the world that have asked us to build that in, because they want to keep paying Cisco CPE prices, right? And their customers don't either. And this gives them a lot better functionality and capability. So as soon as we get that modem functionality in there, then yes, you'll be able to replace your Comcast or whatever device with ours, right?
That's a pretty big deal, because you're saying, hey, I mean, I just upgraded the house and the office to UDMP, to the Ubiquiti.
Love Ubiquiti
routers. And surfboard modems. Like I was like, oh, I'm tired of this shit not working the way I want it to work. I'm tired of not having control. I'll upgrade it to that. And both of those things are awesome. I still got to finish off the office install. But what I'm hearing from this that's pretty exciting is I can replace that whatever $300 device with this, whatever it is, $500 or $600, like whatever you get the price down to. Close enough that it's not a huge deal. It's not like one is $200 and one's $10,000.
Right.
They're pretty close. And then where Ubiquiti will never pay me a penny for processing data, a Revos device will reward me in tokens for processing data, whether I'm using it at the shop and I'm having like a guest network. So if people are drinking their coffee outside and they can jump on, I get paid in tokens for that. Is that right? Or there's one step that I'm missing. Like, do they have to buy tokens in order to jump on the network, or do I buy them and then somehow resell them? Like, what are the mechanics of that?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, by the way. So we wanted to make sure that everybody could get Revos and use the network, right, anywhere they're at, without being required to have a device to get Revos, right? And so, so I think we've created a couple of different avenues. One is, we just did the token sale, and we can talk about that in a minute. And I think that's like the first way that we're going to really seed the network, right? Because we've already been mining Revos on our testnet. And so we're going to take those Revos, obviously, and that's what we put into the token sale, as well as like, some additional tokens there as well. So that's going to be used to seed the network. But then I think what the ultimate goal is that we'll have the ability within the application, the mobile apps, both iOS and Android, for you, individual users, just download the app and then you can go purchase Revos in app, right? Which, we're still got to work through this a little bit, but now you can buy Revos however you'd like, and then you've got them in your wallet, right? So you don't necessarily need a device to mine Revos to get Revos. You can anybody can buy them. And then to use them on the network, right, we're creating the data credits. So then that way you can take Revos, get data credits. Essentially you would burn those Revos to get however many data credits to use the network, right? So now I can use those data credits for deploying applications. So any cloud services, if you will. So this is the storage and compute aspect, right? So if I deploy...
Okay, so yeah, because there's 3 parts to it. It's not just coverage.
No, it's 3 parts to it, right? So if I deploy my app, if I'm like an app developer on the back end, I can get those data credits and then just pay data credits to the network essentially, right? And then wherever that app ends up running, that node will actually earn Revos for them deploying onto that device.
Super cool. So the app developer pays the Revos device owner for running the app on their device.
Correct.
That's pretty cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So you just have one of these things, and because it's nice if it's close, but it's not, I guess, like critical, is you could put one of these. I mean, it sounds, as I'm thinking about it, that Revos is probably super good for like a coffee shop, right? Where they put it in and they replace their router with the Revos router, and then they have some whatever sign on the door that says, hey, you can buy credits and get Wi-Fi here, or get your gaming here, or game in this store. So the big kind of hiccup and bridge and obstacle that I see is people having to buy the credits in order to use the system. It's not like they just log on and it all works. There's that step of like, oh, I got to buy there's an in-app purchase.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the only kind of like friction point, right? And we're trying to make that as frictionless as possible.
Sure. That'll be an in-app thing, and then the price isn't fixed on those. Like it's
yeah. The data price is going to be fixed, right? So like per like byte, right? We're going to have like 0.00. I can't remember exactly what we said it to off the top of my head. It's really small. 0.00005. I think it's a really, really small amount, right? And so
there's a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
In
so
okay.
each data credit, right, is really small in value. And so, if you have Revos at 5 cents, right, you get a lot of data credits per Revos just right out of the gate. And then obviously, if we see a price increase for Revos in the future, right, then that you'll be able to get even more data credits. So the whole
sure, that makes sense. So
we don't want data credits to be so expensive that you can't use the network. That would be crazy. Right.
The data credit cost is fixed. It's just how many data credits you can get with a Revos will change.
Exactly.
May change. Okay. And then how does it compare cost-wise just in general with the current offering? Like if I'm an app developer and I'm looking at this, is it cheaper for me to deploy on Amazon's cloud stuff, or is it going to be cheaper this way, or is there some other way to think about it?
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot cheaper to deploy on the RevoFi network. You're going to, and not just cheaper too, right? Like I always kind of like hate selling on price. I learned a long time ago from a really good salesperson, you never sell on price, right? So yeah. So I think, whenever you look at where you're going to deploy, especially from a developer standpoint, I always look at reactivity. How fast can I get those metrics? How fast can I, supply that service to my user? And I really want that user experience to be the best. And so if you look at quality, just from like a latency standpoint and all those types of things, like you're getting a lot better cost ratio out of our model compared to like cloud services, like standard cloud services, right? So
okay, so am I thinking about this? This is like maybe a higher end offering. Is that like, maybe I'm missing this, but like byte for byte, maybe it is I don't know, cheaper, more expensive. Like you're not looking at the byte for byte. You're like, hey, if you want the higher quality offering, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. If you really want to serve your customers, right? Like, let's just talk plainly. If you really want your customers to have a good experience with your application, right? You want it to be as close to them as possible, so that they have that small, minute latency and reactivity, and the app just works really well for them. Right, so it's really all about the customer. Now, you can still deploy in the cloud. We still have hybrid capabilities and all that kind of stuff. But at a price point, we're cheaper, right, substantially. At a feature comparison, obviously, we've got a long way to go, right? We're going to build into that. But But I think, bit to bit price, I think, you're going to see a lower cost with us with, a higher reactivity and a better performance for your customers. And ultimately, I think those developers that get onto the network and start working with us now, they're the ones that are going to see a tremendous growth for their applications, especially dApps, right? Anything DeFi. Yep. I think they're going to see a better uptake and just a better, daily active user experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's rad to think. And then what about the storage side? Like I think it's Arweave. Is Arweave going to use stuff like this? Or are they using, are you kind of a potential customer relationship or having a relationship with them? Or is that not something that you're going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want to work with everybody. I think it's super important to just have an open community. And I think, again, that this infrastructure can really be beneficial, to companies like Filecoin or any kind of like storage, like Storage, any kind of, again, decentralized application that's really trying to decentralize storage or compute anyway. I would love to see those companies and those applications start launching on our platform. Even like Akash, we talked to the CEO of Akash, a few times over the last year or so. And, I would love to get, Akash launched on all of our devices as well, because I think, they've got an excellent platform as far as like cloud service, offerings go as well. And they've got customers and a user base. So
I like the ambition here.
Yeah.
You're not playing small. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the questions I saw that it should be fairly obvious by now, but just to double tap it, is there any additional bandwidth usage that comes from using a RevoFi device versus a regular router?
So the quick answer is no, right? So out of the box, there's really no difference. Now, the big question here, right, is, okay, well, what if I open my device up and I lease it back to the network 100% resources, and I'm in the middle of downtown, somewhere city, and I've got like, X amount of gigabytes per month that I can use. Okay, if you're on that kind of plan and you're leasing it out and you start seeing a lot of usage on your device, then yeah, you probably are going to have an uptake in your gigs per month that you're using on your internet plan, right?
Of course, right? That makes sense. Yep.
Right, and so is it going to be more or less than what you're currently? I don't know that. I think people are just going to have to look at this as a business owner lens.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like yeah.
And so if you stack 20 RevoFi devices in a closet, and you put them all on one internet connection and lease them all out 100%, you're probably going to see some requirements that are going to have to change for your internet connection.
Totally, because I think I just had a conversation with these 5G guys, and they said, look, every time we've put in a unit providing 5G coverage, the more throughput we give it, the more people use.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the same kind of thing. Now, it sounds like it's very different with Helium in the side that you could put a couple RevoFi devices really in the same building, because what they're doing is they're providing coverage on just one level. They're also doing the compute and the storage, and you could earn well off of all of them versus, each one has to be kind of within its own little square kilometer or whatever the general rule is.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the primary focuses is like Wi-Fi offload programs, right?
What does that mean?
Okay. So Wi-Fi offload programs are, have you ever walked into the airport and saw Boingo?
I have. I was going to ask about this because I used to subscribe to them and it was such a pain in the ass every single time.
Right.
So I stopped.
Right. So Boingo is an example of a Wi-Fi offload program. Anytime you go to a hotel, right, they have Wi-Fi there. That's an offload program. And what that is, very simply, is I'm a building owner, right? So I own property.
Yep.
And then somebody comes in, i.e. like a telco, like a wireless provider, T-Mobile, whoever, and they say, hey, we would like to offload our users' data traffic to your Wi-Fi whenever they enter your building, and we'll pay you for that, right? So T-Mobile says, a T-Mobile customer comes into my building, right? All that data that's offloaded to my Wi-Fi, T-Mobile is going to pay me for that, right?
Yep.
So T-Mobile pays me, I don't know, however much per gig for each customer, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing, T-Mobile is still billing that customer for cellular rates, right? So at a premium. So essentially it's a really good model for wireless companies to make a lot of cash, because now they can just offload that traffic at a lower cost than what they're operating at from a cellular perspective, right? From an OpEx from cellular. So now
it costs way more to run data over cell than it does over Wi-Fi. Okay.
Right? And so now the building owner is monetizing their Wi-Fi. But here's the problem, right? We all know that historically speaking, those Wi-Fi offload programs suck, right? They're horrible user experiences.
I'm not a Boingo customer anymore.
Exactly, right? And so just historically not awesome to deal with those types of platforms. And then the other side of it, right, is that every hotel you go to or every different stadium or whatever, you've got new credentials you got to log in and create. Then you got to buy the data. So I've got to enter my credit card again. But, not every place is that way. Some of them are just free. But there's no, it's not like a really good experience from one place to the next. So what we're doing is we're unifying the Wi-Fi experience. And so in a commercial setting like that, where we're putting multiple RevoFi devices in the building, now you get Wi-Fi 6 mesh coverage, but now you get users that can go from one building to another, one use case from another, and now they don't have to re-sign up or redo anything. So we're unifying the user experience as a whole. And why the building owners like this, right, is because they're only getting paid from the Wi-Fi offload traffic that T-Mobile or whoever's going to pay them for. Whereas with this, they can monetize it, and you hit it on the head. Now every single device that I put in is going to start generating Revos rewards, right, throughout my entire building. So I'm actually de-risking the entire Wi-Fi deployment, right?
So do they still get paid by T-Mobile, and now they're also getting paid by Revos, or does one supplant the other?
Nope, they're still getting paid by both.
Rad. So basically, if you're basically a business owner, coffee shop, hotel, motel, whatever, and you provide free Wi-Fi to your customers, it sounds like you're a fucking idiot if you don't use a Revo device in the future, as long as the whole Revo network works.
It's literally free money.
Yeah. Okay. Super, super cool. And it's probably really good also, I'm thinking, for kind of places. It's just one more revenue channel, right? If you're running some ecotourism place in Costa Rica, why not make extra money by putting in this RevoFi device? So the big problem is that you've got to convince your customers to buy the RevoFi credits. Like you got the chicken and the egg. Like if the network is ubiquitous and super useful, it's awesome for everybody. Right. If I'm buying RevoFi because the hotel in Boston has it, but then I'm on Boingo because the hotel in New York doesn't, more of a pain in the butt.
More in the pain, right? So it's a challenge, obviously, right? But
sure.
But I think, again, as long as we focus on product and we really deliver a really tremendous user experience, then I think that combined with the reward systems and de-risking deployments because of the financial earnings possibility.
There's a giant upside.
I think that's enough incentive there for most people, right? It's a fairly short walk.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with my two devices now that we've had this talk is when they come in. We don't have a ton of people at my little cookie company that my wife and I run, but there's a coffee shop down the street. There's this rad little hot chocolate bar. I'm going to both of them and be like, let me replace your routers.
Yeah.
I'll pay for your internet.
Well, and I think even for little stores and shops like that, what I really want to be able to do is show them how to run their own point of sale system by themselves, right? Run Lightning Network payments right off of your node, right? Like right off your RevoFi device. And so now you can just have like your own decentralized payments platform right there in your, in your store. Like get rid of your merchant services and just get everybody to start paying in Bitcoin or some other type of cryptocurrency. Get rid of it.
Okay, so they're gonna have to pay. They can't pay with credit cards. Like our people are buying a $5 cookie. They're not gonna pay in Bitcoin for that or whatever.
Yeah.
I like it. I'll push them to it. I'll give them the option. But
well,
I think
lightning
there's
payments
cool.
you can pay really small amounts, right?
But you have to be on the system. I mean, it's funny because I've been making this transition from where I was as like this little cookie mogul to over here in this decentralized, meat space meets blockchain place. And as people come in, I'm surprised at how many people know about blockchain, and also surprised at how many people have no idea about it. Like there's this growing disparity between of knowledge, but hopefully we can help them jump the gap. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the last thing to talk about, I'm always saying the last thing and I say it like 9 times, is this token sale that you just did. So we're here December 16th, 2021. You opened up a token sale for Revo's tokens.
Yep.
And it was like 5 cents a token. You could buy it in a million different currencies. I think like Ethereum, US dollars, USDT. There was no kind of obstacle to buying it.
No.
And you sold 40 million of them.
Correct.
I think was the opening. And I was like, oh, I got time. I think they had like a little referral code where if you referred, you get 1,000. I don't know what it was, but
yep.
It was gone in a day and a half. Is that right?
We sold 40 million to Revos for a little over $2 million because we oversubscribed by 2%. So we did that in less than 24 hours.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you guys get to, maybe I'm making this up. Do you guys then take that $2 million and that gets invested into the business, or where did the $500 that I put into it go?
Yeah, great question. So the primary focus of those funds, right, is to complete our NRE. So any non-recurring engineering that's kind of like hanging out there, we're going to put that back into the company, get that stuff completed. And then additionally, like if we want to do some feature ads and, obviously anything product focused that we need to get done, that's going to be the primary use of the funds. The second primary use is supply chain, right? We want to move from, these minimum order quantities of just trying to get 300 devices per batch, right? And then we want to be able to order supply, 10 to 12 weeks ahead of time, right? And so that takes a lot of...
Oh, and you guys are... Yeah, you're managing it. You're not... It's very unlike Helium, where Helium said, hey, anyone can make these. We're just going to make sure that it looks like you can make them, is that you guys are keeping all of that internal.
Yeah, we do not want to have supply chain problems. And we've spent a substantial amount of time, sourcing to each one of our suppliers, understanding what their bandwidth is, understanding what their lead times are, how fast they can get stuff, customizing exactly what we need, but then also making sure that they've got the certifications, imports, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's highly controlled right now, and I think that that's because of a few different aspects, right? Obviously, we don't want to have poor customer service. We want to deliver deliberately, solid information to our customer base of like, when is this going to ship? When can we get it there? So we want predictability and manageability around our supply chain. And in the world we're living in with historic challenges whenever it comes to supply chain, I think right now the only way to manage it is to have it internalized.
Okay. Cool. That makes sense. And I think when I'd gotten the notifications, it was like, oh, it'll be there. I'm guessing like Q1 2022 is batch 2 is going to ship sometime in the first 3 months of 2022.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
Something like that.
So we've had a pretty enormous surge in device sales over the last couple of days as well. So we actually
good for you guys.
So yesterday, we had a tremendous turnout for the token sale, but then we also did our best day for device sales yesterday as well. So
yeah, I saw the difference between my first order and the NFT order was a lot. It's 500 or 600 devices, and they're only a day or two apart. It might have been a little bit more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so I think with that kind of like increase, I think we're going to be able to take the funds, secure our supply chain. We're going to be able to take the increase in device sales, go back to our suppliers and say, hey, we can actually ramp up now. We're not just going to do the 300 minimum order quantity, because that was really something that they've been really nice with us, right? Because usually it's like thousands. You have to do like
Yeah.
If you're going to get something, you got to get thousands. So all of our
Yep.
suppliers have been really kind to us and give us, they've given us a lot of like leniency to kind of scale up slowly. So, just huge thanks to those guys for doing that for us and the whole community.
Right.
But now we've got to scale up and we need to get serious. We've got to secure our supply chain. We need to have inventory in stock. So when people order, they're not waiting weeks or months. We ship it within 24 hours because it's already in stock.
Okay. That's the great hope, right?
No, we're doing it.
You're doing it. Yeah. Okay. Brad, good for you. I like it. Fired up. Okay. So we skipped over one thing that I think is super important because it's still confusing to me, I didn't drill into it, is what's the difference between the three devices? There's three of them that you're selling. And I think one of them had like some SDR stuff, some software defined radio, and the other two were something else. But walk me through what they are and why I might want to use one or the other.
Sure. So the Link is really our base model, right? And I think if you're really just looking to get into RevoFi, that's the entry model that you probably want to start with, right? It does have flexible storage options out of the gate, so you can go all the way up to 1 terabyte, just like you can on the Link Pro for storage. But you don't get any kind of like extra bells and whistles with it, right? So it's going to be a smaller enclosure for sure, and then you still get the 8-port Ethernet, so you still get all the same standard equipment that you get with the other two devices, but you don't get the additional bells and whistles that come with the Micro and the Link Pro. So the Link is really our entry model, and there's some interesting stuff that I'm going to announce about that in the next upcoming weekends or so about the Link that we're going to change. Okay. So I'm not going to drop that.
You can announce it now if you want. If you want, I'll hold it. Because I think it takes me about a week to get these out. So
I'll
keep the secret.
I got to make sure on a couple more things before I announce that one. But and then the Link Pro. That's really kind of like going from the Link to the Link Pro. The Link Pro adds some additional I/O and functionality specifically for backhaul, right? And so what does that mean? Cellular and satellite capability functionality. Right? So what we wanted to do is give people the option to take their device and be mobile, right? Like put this in your RV, put it in your car, go somewhere with it.
Rad.
Right? So now...
And you skipped over something. It's got, both of them have 8 Ethernet ports.
Correct. All of them do.
That is unusual in a home router, for sure.
Yeah, all of them have 8-port Ethernet.
Okay. So one going in that comes from the modem, and then 7 that go out to whatever it is you want to run.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, rad. So Link is the baseline. Link Pro you can pull in, backhaul means connection to the internet. So you can pull in your connection to the internet from either a cell modem, so probably not like a RUT 240, more like a IBR 650C or like some kind of fancier, maybe heavier duty router.
So this is just
also satellite, or is it something else?
It's just a module, right? So you can... Okay. There's a lot of like companies out there that they'll create like a cellular module, and they come in different form factors, right? So you get the module, and then you can put those modules into the device, and then you can go to a carrier, and then you just get a data plan and a SIM card. Put the SIM card in your module, and now you have internet connectivity, right? Okay.
Now, you built a LED Christmas tree when you're 7. When I was 7, I was like playing in the mud. When you're saying you just put this module in, is that like I can buy that thing off of Amazon and plug and play? Or is it more like, actually, you got to buy it off this crazy manufacturer and then you're doing some soldering and some whatever, blah, blah, blah computer crap?
Yeah.
Like how easy is it to add that module?
It's pretty straightforward. Now, obviously, there's a ton of different modules out there, right? And what I've been telling everybody since day 0 is like, look, we're going to try to certify as many modules as we can, as quickly as we can. And certify is just like a fancy way of saying the drivers work and it's secure, right? Like, it's not plug and pray, it's more like plug and play. All right, so that's the goal of certifying them. But the idea is that you can get these modules, put it in there, and then really it's just like a kit, and then you can add antennas right now, depending on what module you get and what you're doing. You just get the antennas and the kit, and then go get your SIM card and away you go, right? Like there's no soldering, there's no crazy programming, there's none of that stuff. And then what we're going to do is like, okay, if you get this module and you put it in there, then you just add this driver, to your device or whatever. So we're going to try to make it as easy and as simple as possible for the end user to add cellular and satellite backhaul.
Dig it. So kind of easy when you know how. Probably not something that grandma's going to like plug in and figure out right away.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the Pro.
But not non-approachable. All right, cool. Yeah. So that's the baseline, the Pro, and then the last one is the Micro?
Yep. Yeah, so the Micro.
And how's that different?
So the Micro was the original product design, and it was really intended to be, that Helium device, right, that worked with Helium and LoRa.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we decided, whenever that did not occur, we're like, okay, well, rather than just have small minutia on just feature set for LoRa and LoRaWAN, like I said, I've been wireless for so long, but we said, okay, well, why don't we just get software-defined radio in there, right? Because with SDR, you can do all kinds of different things, right?
Let's quickly pause and just, we're probably running out of time. I got time. I don't know what you got. You're probably way busier than I am. But software-defined radio is, I know what it is. Just walk me through it so that someone watching this is not like, what are they saying?
Yeah. So just think of it as like there's this radio, right? Hardware. Let's think hardware. We got this radio, and it's just this hardware-based device, right? So all the software that typically runs on a radio is pretty proprietary, and it's like locked in. You can only do a certain thing with it. Very similar to like LoRa, right? Like it's a very specific chipset, very specific like protocols, like all those types of things. Well, with this, we're just taking the radio aspect, the hardware, and we're decoupling all the software, right? So we're moving all the software off of the device, and we're saying the radio can run whatever software we put on it at whatever frequency and whatever protocol. So that's the change, right? So we're really just saying, let's program the radio on the fly, however we want to work anywhere in the world as we want it to.
With any frequency. Yep. Okay. Very cool. And I think if you're super geeky about this and you want to get deep into it, I think the guy's name is Michael Ossman, runs the PortaPack and the Havoc and the Chaos. Like, there's stuff you can get into with SDR that is bananas.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But for right now, it's like this. I guess the way I'm thinking of it is it's a little radio that can do a ton of different frequencies.
Yeah. Yep. And you can run all kinds of different kind of like applications in the background to drive that, right?
Okay, so you'd have something where it's like, I want to run on LoRa, I want to run on VHF or H, or like whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Maybe that's a little bit too broad. Okay.
Yeah.
But this thing can do that.
So like, for example, and this is another like tie-in, right? So if I wanted to run just like a weather monitoring application on my Micro, like I could put that on there as a cloud service, right? So now I'm just running that application that is then talking to that SDR, and now I'm just pulling in like weather data and information from like my sensors from the surrounding area, right?
And getting paid for the data with the tokens.
Exactly. Money.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think that is almost all the questions that I've got. Is there anything else that you want to hit where it's like a frequently asked question that you'd love to clear up for kind of the general public?
Yeah. So really stoked about, the Revos app is coming out pretty soon. Really, I think we're trying to make sure that we have that out by Christmas, because I'd really like to have Revos in everybody's wallets by Christmas, right? So that's the goal. I don't know if we'll hit it, but we're trying like hell. And then we've also got the Cypher Army NFTs that are out there. So we're about to launch our candy machine and gumdrop whitelist too. So
what is that stuff? I've been seeing this candy gumdrop thing. I'm like, I got to read about this and understand it, because they don't mean anything yet. To me.
Yeah, so this is our NFT marketplace that I built. We stood this up. It's all on Solana, but we want to take this marketplace, and we're creating our NFTs off of it. And of course, each device comes with an NFT. Also, going to be viewable in AR via our app, so you'll actually see your NFT, which are all game ready.
Oh, cool!
Because I built all of them in Unreal, right? So all of the NFTs are built in Unreal Engine. I built them myself, So they're all unique, right?
That's rad.
So you can take these NFTs and then resell them however you want later on, but you'll be able to see it. So we're going to have the candy machine and the gumdrop are a different form of minting for NFTs, right? So essentially you can go to our site whenever we do the launch, and then everybody gets whitelisted via gumdrop, right? So then that way everybody has a fair opportunity to mint, right? And there's just like a little button there, and you just you keep, you hit that button to mint an NFT, and then each time somebody mints, the increment of cost to mint goes up a little bit, right? It just increments through the auction. So we're gonna.
And I'm paying for that with Revos?
No, this will be Sol. So our marketplace is Solana
with Sol.
based.
Okay.
Yeah. So whenever you mint, we're minting all of our NFTs on Solana. And so when you mint that NFT, you get the NFT at like X Solana, right? And then the next person mints, it's a little bit more. Next person mints a little bit more. Right? And so that's kind of like how it works. But the gumdrop whitelist aspect is so it's fair for everybody. So then that way, you're not blocked from like the traffic, and we have to set up RPC, production grade servers, and all that kind of stuff too. So, but
I'll keep an eye on it. I'm interested.
And eventually, we want to open up the marketplace to other creators, right? So, the Cypher Army NFT marketplace will have hundreds of creators with hundreds of different types of NFTs available.
Because you've made the first, whatever it is, 10 or 500. Like, there's how many are there actually? Let's just
so I've only made 10 to date. We've sold 7 of those over the last couple of weekends. Still having some, pretty severe challenges technically.
There's a shit show. It was awesome. I'm like, so many people are going to quit. I am not going to quit. I'm going to get this thing.
You're going to get it. You're going to get it. Damn it!
Fantastic. Yeah. And I did. By God.
So and then after that 10, we'll sell the other 3 once I get some of these other bugs sorted out. And then we'll set it up for the 3,000 auction. And then after that, then we'll open it up to everybody.
Okay, so the first 10 are kind of handmade by you, and then the other 2,790.
No, we'll do 3,000. There's going to be 3,000 of them.
Or 3, okay.
Yeah.
Other 3, and all those are generated? That can't be you just like sitting at your desk making them all different.
Yeah, that's a lot of me making them all different, but it's also generative, right? So each NFT comes with a profile pic, but it's also a full MP4 video file, and it's got embedded audio in it as well, right? So the full 3,000 will still have a lot of me doing manual work and creating the characters, but the profile pictures themselves will be generative. So, and then obviously the NFT that you get whenever you mint will be random based on whatever that generative stuff is. Not just the profile, but all the other pieces of it too, right?
That's pretty exciting. I may have to get in there and get another one. The first one is just like, it's just wild. Like I'm just as new to this as most other people, and seeing these things like, oh, that's what it is in my wallet, and that's what it looks like. And it was super exciting to be in the auction. I was telling my buddy, like my hand was shaking as I was hitting the button. Like, what is wrong with me?
Oh, it's super exciting.
It's super exciting.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's a lot of fun. It's my creative side, so it's my outlet for that.
Take it. Ripping. Anything else?
No, I think that's it, man. So just really thank you and appreciate your time today.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I know you're ultra busy. Really appreciate your time as well, and psyched to get this thing out. And psyched to introduce people to this concept, and also to make it really clear how different it is than A, what I thought it was coming in, and also B, from Helium, which it very commonly gets kind of confused with. So they're two, a little bit of overlap, but two fairly different things, and that's exciting to see the space expand in that way.
Yeah.
So
totally
good job.
agree. Thank you. I appreciate that, Nick.
Ripping.